All right. Good afternoon. And I know everybody over in Europe and the UK. Good evening if you're on the West Coast of the United States. It's good morning. But man, talk about a powerful. I can't believe that we're already like halfway through the second day of Finish the Year Strong. It has already been an absolute crazy awesome event. So much growth, so much sharing, and I am actually so excited about this next talk. My buddy Donnie he's actively worked with hundreds of agencies, hundreds of recruiters on helping them increase the revenue. And I am so excited to bring him to the summit to share to really just help make a financial impact in your guys' like rest of the Q4. So, Donnie, all yours, buddy.
Thank you, Ben. I'm happy to be here, man. I'm fired up for this opportunity. Thank you guys all for taking the time to listen to me here. Um, like Benjamin said, to kind of start off and introduce, I've helped, I think it's over 350 plus firms at this point, implement what I call the relevant recruiter method. And we're going to talk through the essentials of lead generation today. And I'm probably one of the few people that you'll hear on this, this whole circuit that Benjamin's put together that has a marketing background. I'm not a recruiter. That's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is in marketing and branding. So, hoping to deliver a lot of value for you guys today. And I'm looking for some interaction as we go through this thing here. So, if you guys, when I get in, just to kind of start right now, and let me pull this chat stuff around. If you guys can just go ahead and go into the chat and let me know what industry you're focused on and what's your greatest area of opportunity right now for your recruiting business. Is that, improve sales process, more client acquisition, for example, or is it, finding unique ways to, find talent that you can deliver? So if you can go into the chat, let's just start interacting now. And I'll be, tapping on you guys through the whole entire time. So I appreciate your interaction as we go through this whole thing. So, um, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Angela. Awesome. Samantha, excellent. New clients, sales process, finding candidates. All right, cool. Appreciate you guys on the quick stuff. So, a lot of firms over the last several months, one of the cool things about where I sit in the market is I get to speak to a lot of different firms, and it's probably one of the more interesting times. And I'm sure you guys are hearing this right now, but one of the things that I've found is that I can have a conversation with one recruiter in the beginning of the day, and they're telling me how this is feast or famine, toughest market they've ever been in. And I can get into a conversation at the end of the day for a recruiter that's growing their business and having a great year. The point isn't to make you feel, good, bad, or indifferent based off of where you're at, but just point of we're in a volatile market. It's very interesting. And so, lead generation, especially on the client side, is a challenge for a lot of folks. Okay. What I'm going to do today is walk you through some stuff that is actually winning for my clients right now. Hopefully, you guys can grab some of those things and take it away. Now, time for some interaction again. Let's play a little game together. And seeing a lot of familiar names on the webinar chat here, so it's awesome to see. I see Matt Sylvie and Cerise is kind of the two that popped up for me right now. So let's have a competition. If you and I were going to, we both have a hamburger stand, okay, and we are in a competition to sell the most hamburgers. Go into the chat and let me know what advantages that you would want so that you can beat me in selling hamburgers. So, for example, maybe that's, maybe you want Wagyu meat. Go into the chat right now. Let me know what you would use, what advantages you would like to be able to beat me in our sales. Perfect. So we got organic beef. We got location twice. Awesome. Awesome. Anybody else? Who else can beat me in selling the most hamburgers? Again, go in the chat. Packaging, seasonings. Awesome. So good flavored burgers, sauce. Yep. Customer service, location, marketing, offer deal on multiples. These are all awesome. But love it, Gavin. Good to see you, man. Location, good marketing. All right, cool. So you guys can have all those advantages. I just want this one advantage, and I'm going to smoke you guys. All right, you ready? All I want is a starving crowd. With a starving crowd, shoot, I have a burger. They're really, really hungry. That's their problem. They're hungry. Um, I have the burger, which is the solution, and all I need to do is just put it right in front of you. All I need is a starving crowd. Okay. So where's your starving crowd? Where's your starving crowd online? Okay. That's the thing that you want to focus in on, is going to a place where other people are not always hanging out. Okay. So, well, let's talk about that, right now. Well, one of the first things is we can't be a commodity as a recruiter. If you look the same, sound the same, and act the same, and run your processes the same as the next recruiter, by definition, you are a commodity. Well, what happens as a commodity in this industry? We compete against other recruiters on deals. We're usually at a race to the bottom for fees. Um, and so what we want to be viewed as is an authority, and we'll talk about exactly how to do that. But one of the things right now, when there's not big pieces of the pie coming around, okay, how do I can't, the starving crowd is less, right? So I need to be the one that really stands out in that marketplace. Okay. The next thing that's really happening is when there isn't a lot going around, one of the big challenges and mistakes that I see folks make is they still continue to sell. So right now is a perfect market for this. If most of your business development outreach right now is based off of your ability to put together some sales messaging, um, you're probably not getting a lot of good responses right now. Why? Because people aren't hiring at the same level they were a couple months back. And so what happens is you lose 90% of the attention of the marketplace by focusing on a sales first message. So the goal here is to stop selling and to start educating your audience. Okay. So those are some of the big challenges that will prevent you from being the recruiter that feeds the starving crowd. Is if you are viewed as a commodity in the marketplace. Right now, you're going to probably be a little bit hungrier. Okay. And if you don't have a system that isn't 100%, outside of you being able to sell only, you're not going to get a lot of traction, in your efforts. Okay. So here's how we start. We want to understand our ideal client company. Okay. Ideal company persona, if you will. So who are you targeting? And this is always one of my favorite topics to talk about in the space, because if some of you guys recruit like a very specific discipline, engineers, I'll just use one, right? So if I'm recruiting engineers, then like, what's the difference of me being able to recruit an engineer at a Fortune 100 company versus that, small to, mom and pop shop down the street? Well, you can do both. And so the challenge 9 times out of 10 isn't your ability to deliver the talent. The challenge is being attractive enough to the company to ultimately get them to understand that I can solve a bigger challenge for them. Now, I'm going to stop really quick. And everything that I really build and talk about here is to get you to be viewed as an authority, to get you be viewed as a partner, an advisor. My strategies are not kind of like high volume stuff that's out there. So we're really focusing on attraction here. And this is how we go about the attraction. So I want to make that point before we continue to go on here, is all this is going to be about how we attract people to us. And so by understanding my ideal company, there's big differences in the pains, the problems, the frustrations, the challenges that a hiring leader is going through for a Fortune 100 company, for example, versus that medium-sized company down the street. And so your ability to understand these specific challenges that companies face is really what's going to help you stand out in the marketplace. This is what's going to help you capture attention from your ideal clients and candidates, is because you understand basically their day in hell and their day in heaven that they desire better than even they do. Okay. And we're going to dive deep into the actual hiring persona side of it here in a minute. But one of the things I want you to really take home from this is if I understand my company profile. So what industry are they in? How many employees do they have typically? What's their revenue? What are the common positions that they have open that I can fill for them? Okay. So this is really about understanding the target client profile so that I can attract these clients to me and cut through the noise. And again, it has nothing to do with your ability to do the actual execution and the job of finding the talent. This is about really getting ourselves to stand out in the marketplace and become the go-to recruiter. Okay. Um, this also helps us focus on the next thing, which we're going to get into, is the hiring persona, but like really ensuring that for your lead generation efforts, that you're focused. Okay. So one of the things that I've noticed is sometimes analysis paralysis is real. And so, especially in this industry, there's a lot of folks that get hung up on, well, should I send it to them? What's the message that I say? What's this, that? And when I know exactly who I'm reaching out to, and I know exactly what their common pain, problems, and frustrations and challenges are, and I know exactly what their desired outcomes are, I have a much better opportunity to stay consistent and hit the numbers that I need to hit to generate the results that I want to generate. But if I'm unsure about that, then typically us as humans, as we start to second guess every move, is this the right person? Is this the right message? Is this right? I don't know how many of you guys can relate to that, but one of the things I've found is simply by you having a very clear target, it allows you to move forward faster. Okay. Now, the ideal company persona is something I've been teaching for years, but we've actually taken this to another level this year. And where we're digging into like the actual hiring persona. Okay. So, what I mean by the hiring persona here is not a hiring manager. A hiring persona, it could be, okay, so to be clear, but a hiring persona to me is like, well, who is the person in the organization that is feeling the actual pain, feeling the weight of these certain positions being open? So in the accounting and finance space, for example, you might be really reaching out to the hiring persona is probably your CFO and your controller, right? And what we want to do is understand very specifically for them now. We understand at the high level from the company, but now we want to understand from a very, specific desk level. Well, what are their challenges? What are their frustrations? What are their desires? What are their personal goals? Where do they want to go? What are the motivations of your ideal hiring persona? Okay. Because then I can tailor my message to resonate with these specific personas. And that ultimately focuses on how we get these high quality prospects. Okay. So everything again here that we're focused on is not just volume. This is focused on how do I attract my ideal folks. Oh, looks like we went back a slide there. So part of it, I have built what's called the relevant recruiter. And one of the things that is essential to becoming relevant in your marketplace is simply knowing who you're trying to be relevant to. And then on the flip side of that is them knowing that you exist for them. So that's how we build really strong positioning in the marketplace that differentiates you, is exactly who you're trying to differentiate yourself to and why you're trying to do that. So that's the ideal client and that's the ideal hiring persona. If you don't have these things figured out yet in your business, then there really shouldn't be another step that you take. And this is the number one challenge I see in the recruiting industry right now is there's so many shiny objects and people are just chasing them left and right. They're looking for the quickest band-aid, the quickest fix, the quickest next program, the next software, whatever it is, it's all of a sudden going to be this magic bullet. If you don't understand your ideal client and your ideal hiring persona at a very, very deep level, then you shouldn't focus on anything else until you do. Because when you understand this is the first step of mastery, right? Of mastering your ideal target market so that I can create content, I can create messaging and everything specifically. I know they will be interested because I know them better than they know themselves. Okay. So this is the key foundation. It's boring. It's vanilla, but you want to understand this. Before I move on to the next step, does anybody have any questions specifically about creating your ideal company target and then your hiring persona from within there? Go ahead and go in the chat. Let me know if there's any questions. I'll get to those. If not, I'm just going to continue to move forward into the next step here. So, all right, we will move it on forward. All right. So once I understand, good question, Matt. So Matt just asked, does it have to be what keeps them up at night as it pertains to recruiting? Not necessarily it doesn't have to always be about recruiting. Great question, Matt. So I want to just speak generally about what they have going on in their job so I can be relevant to them, right? And so I think the things that make the most sense would be, something that has to do with hiring and recruiting and working back from there. Because we want to create conversations and dialogue that is going to ultimately serve them and us. And so, if I'm asking things that, if I'm talking about things that keeps them up at night, but I can't solve that problem, for example, I might be able to capture some attention, but I don't know that I'm going to position myself as being that solution provider. So the answer is yes, definitely think about other things that keep them up at night. But how can I tie that back into hiring and recruiting is going to be the most impactful way to do that. So discovering the hiring persona is really just coming through repetition, right? So if you've been in the space for a while, if you're in a certain market, Evelyn, then you should have a good idea. Let's just say you're in engineering, that's your focus, and you want to go even more specific. You're doing manufacturing companies, and you're looking at a certain type of engineer for a manufacturing company. So then what you would want to figure out, and what I usually have my clients do when they come into my programs, we do a client audit. So based off of the placements that you've already made, who's hired you? That's where I would start. That's the easiest place to start, is like, let me look at my track record of success and reverse engineer it from there. Then I'm just going to start to go to market, and I'm going to get really curious. Okay. So Benjamin knows this story. I mean, I've never recruited somebody a day in my life. So for me, when I came into this industry 8 years ago, I had to learn the difference between contingent and retained. I had to learn the difference between contract staffing, temp staffing, direct hire. All these things, you guys are sitting there going like, yeah, this is all, well, those are all new things for me. And so my point that I'm making here, Evelyn, is that I've just stuck to the game. I've played the long game, and I've figured these things out. I figured out what I needed to know in order to me, for me to figure out my buyer persona for my market. Okay. So start with the client audit, and then from there, start with the people that are typically in charge of that department, if you will, within the company. So great question. Appreciate both of those. So when I'm looking at my LinkedIn profile now, this is the place where I'm going to start to get myself and stand out to my ideal persona. Okay. And this is where I think a lot of people get a little bit afraid, is like going all in on a very specific target market. Okay. Your headline is the first thing that people see. So when you go on LinkedIn and you send a connection request, your headline is what people are going to be able to see. So you can either just say Donnie Gupton recruiter, or it can say Donnie Gupton and then how I actually help and impact my market. Okay. Avoid, if your profile just says recruiter right now, or senior recruiter, or talent acquisition advisor, just understand that you're leaving a lot on the table. Okay. This is great. I want you to look at your LinkedIn profile overall as digital real estate. Okay. And so that headline is what people see when you connect. That headline is what people see when you write a post. That headline is what people see when you send them a direct message. That headline is what people see when you're commenting on other people's posts. Your headline is probably the most important part of your digital real estate. And what I'm going to recommend here is you call out your target market, that you highlight in your niche, what you deliver, and how you do it. And if you can get that part right in your headline, where you're speaking to a target market and they know exactly how you impact and what the benefit of that is, that's usually a good start, for a compelling headline. But your next section on your profile that you really need to dial in is your about section. And the about section is no, I don't care about your career. Don't really care about your resume folder here. This is really what you want to take your about section should tell your story. Tell me the story about how you can generate me a result. Okay. So you guys can go to my LinkedIn about section right now, and you'll see that my about section is written towards you guys. It is not written it's not an about thing for Donnie. Yeah, there's some story in there tied in, but you'll see that what you want to do is hook your market in with some common pain points. And this is why it all comes back. I want to be able to create my about section so I can create a hook so I can speak directly to them. I want to share my story of how I got into this space. I want to share my specific way that I get results. Okay. I'm going to actually share testimonials. Again, you can see this on mine. And then I have a very clear call to action. Hey, here's what you need to do if you want to continue to move forward with me. Okay. But if you see that, and this is where the about section is different, it's almost like a sales page for your ideal hiring persona. That about section, when your ideal hiring persona hits your profile, they should be like, oh shit, this person exists for me. Like, this is it. This is how it works. Okay. And so I'm going to tie in some of those common pain points and frustrations that they have with recruiting positions. I'm going to tie in common pain points I've had with other recruiters. I want to make sure that my solution resonates with them more than anybody else in the marketplace. And like that last line says, this is the space to really position yourself as the go-to authority in your marketplace. Okay. So that's the first part of this. The second part of your profile, and we've already talked about this, it really needs to engage with that ideal audience. Okay. And so keywords, I'm not going to have you lead with keywords, meaning that like you'll never see me do like a recommend like tech recruiter slash, engineering recruiter slash. It's like that, I think is just so tacky and so stiff. So find a way to incorporate your keywords, your top keyword in your help section statement, right? And then you can include your keywords throughout your about section in your profile. Okay. But I'm not so focused on, always being on defense, meaning that I'm waiting for everybody to take the move. I'm going to be on offense a little bit with my profile, meaning I'm going to take action to drive traffic to the profile rather than waiting for somebody to do a search to find me, so to speak. We want to be more aggressive than that. Okay. So when you have the rest of your profile, make sure that your experience is obviously up to date. I think the biggest thing, the other area that I think actually drives the needle when we're talking about business development is having a good section of recommendations. Okay. So a part of what I recommend for my clients is when they go through these things is every single time you complete a search, okay, every single time you do that, you need to have a process in place that goes to the client and the candidate to try to gather a testimonial. And by doing that, then that's how I can create, more recommendations for myself and then more things that I can share. But this is the landing page for your personal brand here. Okay. That's what I want you to think about your profile. If you're not already doing it this way, it has to be a landing page for your personal brand, speaking directly to your audience and clearly showcasing the value that you can bring to the organization. I always would like to remind people of this is like, we are in a society where people want to know what's in it for them. And so you need to be, when you're creating your messaging and creating your things in your profile, I don't want to be sharing benefits of my car. For example, I don't want to be sharing that, hey, like we've got a V6 engine, or a V8. Like that's the feature. What's the benefit? Well, I can get you to 0 to 60 in 2.5. People and our clients in this space, they want to know what is the actual tangible outcome you're going to give me? What are the results that we can speak to? So what are the actual benefits? So for example, I'm not going to say, oh, I've got 25 years of industry experience. Awesome. Well, how does that benefit the client? Oh, I've got 25 years of industry experience. So I can vet candidates quickly and you'll only have 3 on your plate to review. Oh, okay. Now I can see the actual benefit to me having experience. So keep that in mind, features versus benefits as you're creating pretty much anything, stuff in your profile, in your messaging, in your content in general. Okay. So before I get to the targeted outreach, any questions about the profile section that we just went through there? All right. So IT and engineering sector and finding it hard to niche further. Any advice? So yeah, Claire, I mean, this is obviously a pretty loaded question. I think that there's don't be sorry at all. I'm happy for it. So I think when you're looking at it, it's can you niche down based off of is there an industry you can tie into it? So maybe you do IT and engineering for manufacturing. Is there a function that IT engineering does for the company? Is there a specific outcome that's after, right? So honestly, for me to really give you quality advice on this, I would need to like speak to you about it because yeah, I mean, there's just so many different variables, but I think when you look at it, there's a lot of different ways to niche down. There's the position titles, there's the department, so to speak, or the function within the companies. There's the actual industries themselves. There's geographical locations. Okay. But I think at the end of the day, it's you having the idea of like knowing, is there a problem you can solve that ultimately leads to needing IT engineering talent, right? So sales is usually the biggest thing that is easy to say is like, okay, well, if I know, like I can position myself as a sales recruiter, or I can position myself as somebody that helps companies increase their revenue. by providing top tier sales talent. Okay. Doing the same thing, but it's just how we're talking about it. What suggestion do you have for someone that still works full time for an employer? Those conditions make it really difficult to grow. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Terry, I think you're gonna have to do some things kind of behind the scenes. What I'm talking about here, a lot of it you do need to kind of have an outward kind of presence for. So, yeah, you'd kind of have to, that'd be like a case by case thing there. Sorry, I don't have like a good answer for you, but I would just say you may keep your profile a little bit more generic. When you do your outreach, you might do your outreach very specific with these things in mind. So that's what I would be thinking through is like, okay, I can't maybe position myself as being a sales expert recruiter, but I know that that's what I'm going after. And so I'm just going to go do my outreach that way. So another good question from Deanna here. Yeah, so I would, if I'm looking at your profile, I would actually change the order of it. I would just say helping CPA firms secure top talent nationwide. And then if you wanted to keep the other things in there, you could. I could also just say helping CPA firms secure top talent nationwide would be solid. Now, I think you can improve on that. What is, so they can do what, right? Helping CPA firms secure top talent nationwide so they can stay on top of client demand, right? So they can expand their audits. I don't know what you're specifically doing. So yeah, process to get client and candidate reviews for your profile is going to be just a very simple after they place, after you make the placement, is reaching out and just simply asking how you did, getting curious and actually wanting to make an impact. Hey, how did this work? How did you help? Would you like? Would you not like? Blah, blah, blah. Now I've built rapport. And then I can come back and be like, hey, would you be willing to write me a LinkedIn recommendation? And then I would just send them the recommendation. That's the easiest way to do that there. So, all right, cool. Appreciate you guys in the dialogue. And I'm going to try to stay on track as much as I possibly can here. So talking about targeted outreach now. So the focus here is not on quantity. Okay. It's more on quality. All right. So when I first started the Relevant Recruiter method, we were doing a lot of fully automated campaigns. And I still think there's a place for that. We still run fully automated campaigns. But the reality of it is, and especially in a market like this, is the fully automated stuff just does not work at the same level as it used to. And I'm only just telling you that from straight up experience. Okay. I know what it was 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, and I know what it is now, and it's not the same. Okay. Now, what's working right now is targeted outreach and what I call personalized outreach at scale. Okay. So the idea here is we're going to take our ideal hiring persona, and our first objective is simply to grow our LinkedIn network with these types of people. So in order to become relevant in my marketplace, I need to first get myself in front of these types of people. Okay. And so that's our first objective, is to grow my LinkedIn profile with very targeted prospects. Now, I might spend an hour or 2 hours targeting ideal prospects. So I'm really targeted. That's where I'm going to focus on quality. Okay. And I might take all 200 of those prospects and put them through an automated connection sequence so I can leverage myself. And that's where I can play the quantity game, if you will, right? So this is how we do it, is we look at doing a lot of front end research, understanding our market, starting to build lists in Sales Navigator of these types of people. Okay. And then we want to grow our network with these people. And this is where the game gets really challenging. I'm curious if you guys want to go in the chat right now, how many of you guys are successfully starting conversations on LinkedIn every single day? I'd be curious how many of you guys have like a very proven process here, because I know a lot of people do things like this. Awesome, Tiffany. Thank you. Sweet. So as those other answers kind of come in, nope. Follow-up game. All right. All right, cool. So cool. I'm just reading the comments. Good stuff coming in. So basically what we do, we take that first step, we grow our network. Then, like I said, the game gets challenging. Okay. And so what doesn't work? Let's just start with that. Okay. What doesn't work is you coming in and saying that you've got this, you'd be really excited to just be a helpful resource for them, and then they can kick over anything that's helpful. Nobody cares. Okay. Nobody cares about your magical formula and your magical process and how you can do all these things. Like when you're first connecting with people, that's like me walking right into a networking event and going like, "Hey, Donnie here. Hey, I can help you generate more inbound leads for your business right now. Hey, if you're interested, I would love to be a helpful resource for you. So all you need to do is just, it's like we don't interact that way. And this is where I think the challenge for the recruiting industry is because there is such an offline game. You don't take your cold calling approach and bring it to LinkedIn. That's a quick way, it's a quick recipe for disaster. Okay. So do not take your cold calling approach and bring it to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a social platform. Okay. And so what we do that really works well is we find very specific questions that the hiring leaders and or candidates that we're reaching out to just flat out couldn't refuse to answer. And so that's why knowing my target market, my personas at a deep level needs to happen so that I can know, well, what types of questions would I say to get somebody into dialogue right now? Right. So if I can come on and I can throw something that is true and unique that other people can relate with is a great way to get into dialogue. So for example, when I first started this training, and I've used this on outreach and people respond back and like, oh, I'm in that category. It's like, hey, a lot of recruiters that I hear or that I speak with in the marketplace are telling me that they're killing it. And then I have another set of recruiters that are just not seeing it the same way right now and are struggling. I'm not sure which one of these categories you fit into, right? So now I can make a relatable statement or question. Then I can ask like, hey, are your guys clients hiring full steam ahead right now? Are you picking up, key roles, or most of your clients frozen? And now you're like, oh, well, that's pretty relevant to me. A lot of my clients are frozen. And I can follow up and I have something I can help you with, right? So what are the questions you can ask? What are the relatable experiences that you can share that can generate opportunities? Okay. This is another one that really works right now. If you have had success recently, then share your willingness to share that success, but how you posture this is key. Okay. So it would be something along the lines of like, hey, John, I'm reaching out because, I see that you're ABC over at XYZ company. Hey, my company, we just recently completed a search for a manufacturing company and filled 2 sales positions, very similar to yours. Not sure if you guys have any, needs right now, or if you're going to have some openings in the future. But if so, and this is where the posture comes into play, I would be happy to share what we found and some of the insights and trends from our most recent search. So I'm not selling you. I'm not presenting like, hey, I'll be the person. You're presenting it like, I got some stuff. If you want to listen to it, you got it. Right. So that's kind of the positioning play that you have with this is you're going to go share some success that's very relevant to them. All right. So let's talk about the word relevant. Relevance is what turns outreach into meaningful conversations. Okay. I don't want you to be thinking personalization as much as I want you to be thinking relevance. And that's how you can create bulk messaging to get people to respond. That's why we have success in the Relevant Recruiter program, is because my clients understand relevance just as much as they understand personalization. So I can send a very bulk message to a very entire list. They can know that the message is automated and they'll still respond because the message is relevant to them. Okay. So that's what you want to be thinking about with your targeted outreach is personalization is our best step. If I can't do personalization, I want to do relevant messaging. Okay. And then the last part about this whole thing, there's actually 2 that are really going to drive this home is you want to have automated follow-up. So even in our personalized outreach campaigns, we have automated follow-up. If you're relying on a one message approach, you're killing yourself. You're killing yourself. There's everything in sales, the fortune's in the follow-up, right? And so if you have a multi-stage campaign, then that's what gets you more opportunities. And with some of the tools that are available for us, here's the kicker is my clients in our program is we send videos for outreach that are hyper personalized or hyper relevant. Okay. And then we have automated follow-up. And so we basically build out a very targeted persona, reach out to the market. We're showing up in a completely different way. How do I capture the attention of my starving crowd right now so that I'm not just another burger joint in town? Well, I've got to be showing up to my market in a different way, in a way that is more unique, in a way that requires, multiple touch points. Okay. The system that we use is not just LinkedIn, it's LinkedIn email. And that's how you can do some very focused, targeted outreach. Okay. So this should be one of your number one ways of generating leads. Okay. This isn't a question if LinkedIn works or not. It's just like, it's not a question of cold calling works or not. What are you committed to working? What are you committed to getting to work for you? They can all work. It's just a matter of which one you want to, right? So this works every single day for my clients. Okay. Now we might have to do more outreach right now because the economy is not what we thought it was for some industries, right? But the bottom line is this still works. Okay. So now, the next thing is being able to actually build an audience. And this is where we tie this whole thing together. And one of the things that's really unique about my methodology is we're not fully inbound, not fully outbound. We build a methodology and a system where everything ties together. Okay. So the first step to growing an audience is what we just talked about. It's taking your targeted outreach approach, growing your LinkedIn network. That's one of the things that I think is fantastic about LinkedIn is we can grow essentially an audience. We can grow a network of people, that want to, ultimately that should be our ideal hiring personas. We can grow that network, but that's the first step, and it's just like going again to a networking event. I can go meet you, walk by and shake your hand. You're probably not going to remember me after that. I didn't build you as an audience. You're not a part of my audience. You're not a part of my tribe, and I'm not a part of yours because we just shook hands. And that's what happens on LinkedIn. Connect, shake hands, move on, right? So how do we really build an audience is basically what we're doing is we're trying to get people interested and captivated in what we do. And so the easiest place is actually share insights and engage with key players within your niche. Okay. And that's how you turn your audience into a source of consistent inbound leads. So I'm not going to talk you guys through this one. I'm going to show you guys a very simple way to do this and stay top of mind right here on LinkedIn. So give me a sec. All right. If you guys can still see my screen now, we should be seeing my sales navigator, I'm hoping. If you're not seeing that, then let me know. So if you're not using sales nav, it should be, this one should definitely be a part of the repertoire here. Okay. This is a good one. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that, Benjamin. All right. So one of the things with sales navigator, that I love is your ability to target accounts. So that's your account filters. Okay. Your ability to target the individuals from that. Sales Navigator allows us to build lists. And the lists are like for my really targeted approach. And then they also have what's called here, you can see lead filters. And this is where I'm going to kind of cast my wider net. Okay. Now this is more targeting. I don't want to get into the targeting as much right now. As much as I want to show you guys kind of the audience building. So for me, when I log into my Sales Navigator, my notifications always pop up. Okay. Now everybody that's in a notification is on some sort of list or something of mine or something that they're recommending. Okay. And so we'll pick on my buddy Ed here. Ed is a good friend of mine from years ago. Well, still a good friend of mine now, but met him years ago. So you can go into your notifications every single day. Now I'm just going to point this out. Jillian is a little bit outside the core model, but she's still a recruiter. She just does models, Powerhouse, Chief Marketing Officer, Talent Hub, Boutique Recruiting Agency, Work Solutions. So Dominic, David, like all of these people, these are all ideal prospects for me. And so the easiest way for me to start building an audience is come to Ed, and I'm going to pay it forward. Now look at this. I want you guys to think about this from your own standpoint. Okay. So here's Ed. He's been a client. Okay. But nobody's interacting. So what's an easy frictionless way for me to put myself on his radar? Well, I'm going to like it and then leave a thoughtful comment. And I'm not going to do the comment now for sake of time. But part of your daily routine on LinkedIn sales, and this is what Sales Nav makes it easy for, is to reach out and start to build, pay it forward, start to comment, like, and engage strategically with people within your network. Okay. So now now if I'm the only person that's commenting on somebody's posts, pretty good idea that I'm going to put myself right on their radar, right? And so this should be a part of your daily activity as you're reaching out, commenting, liking people's stuff, taking it the step further of finding their post and then sending them a voice note on LinkedIn, like, "Hey Ed, hey, I just got done reading your tips, uh, about how hiring managers just scan, the resume for a quick 7 seconds. I've never thought of it that way. I really appreciate that insight. Looking forward to staying connected here on LinkedIn. I'm just building a relationship with them." Who else is doing that, guys? These are easy ways, social selling, to put yourself on their radar. And I'm building myself an audience as I start to consume or create my own content that will come to me, right? So, when you look at Benjamin Mena, for example, here, right? How did this whole podcast evolve? Well, Benjamin and I have been commenting on each other's stuff for a while, right? We've been commenting, we've been engaging for a while. Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah. So when you look at that, it's like, well, this is how these things happen, right? It's just through social selling, right? So these are where opportunities kind of arise from just, hey, I'm going to go ahead and comment and engage. Now, here's some more tactical things that I love. So you can build out leads lists. These are, again, going to be hyper focused. So you can see I've got 13 people on this one, 100 on this one, but a lot of my lists are very small. Just a little insight here. The small list, these 3, 2, 5, these are all people that have gotten video outreach from me. Okay. And so that's kind of the process as I build the small list when I'm doing video outreach, and then roll from there. Okay. So when I have these lists, then when I come back into my home page, then I can start to filter the activity that I want to see. So I'm going to go down to the leads list, and I've got the Inc. 5000 companies on here. Okay, so this is one of the ways I target. Hint, hint, you guys should target Inc. 5000 companies. If anybody's growing and bragging about their growth, I don't know, they might need talent. Okay, so now I go to the Inc. 5000, and I've got all these prospective people that I can engage with. All right, so I can come here, I can view the post. Again, it shows up on the right. I don't even have to leave the page. Like it, comment it, and move on, right? Come here, see the post, right? Like it, comment it, and move on. 5 to 10 minute activity each and every day. This is how I create the organized way for me to do it so I can move fast with something like this, okay? Because this isn't obviously like a place where I want to be time syncing, when like, oh, well, how do I evaluate my days? Well, I just do a lot of commenting. That's how I grow my business. No, this is just a bigger part of the overall strategy, right? So that's one of the things that I like is with Sales Navigators, my ability to do the targeting with this type of stuff here. So that would be one way. So in Sales Nav, the leads list is the individuals, the account list is the accounts. So let me see what I've built out here. So if I have these account lists, then I can actually see the different companies that I've actually targeted, right? And then I can go comment on some of these companies, right? So this is a way that I can actually find the profile and I can comment on the company from a content standpoint, but then from a targeting standpoint for outreach, this creates a lot of opportunity for me too. Okay. So I'm not going to get into a full sales nav training, but I did want to show you kind of some of the very basic ways to start building and engaging your audience so that when you start creating content, that you have an audience ready to consume it and ready to engage with it. So naturally, let's talk about content. So going up really quick. So yeah, LinkedIn's kind of changed some things, Jackie, which is really, LinkedIn's just such a, yeah, anyways. You cannot have Sales Navigator and Recruiter Lite anymore. That used to be my client's like #1 combo. Yes, I mean that, Jackie. And so, I would say Navigator and or Recruiter Lite. A lot of my clients now are kind of stuck into having Recruiter and Sales Nav if they want that. I think you can get the job done with any tool. I think it's just a matter of you figuring out how you could make that tool work. So I have clients and all they use is Recruiter for business development and do it very successfully. So I don't think the tool, because at the end of the day, there is a bottom line that we're all paying attention to. And it's like, yeah, if we can just have every single tool into the suite, then great. But that's not the reality, right? So in kind of going back into, Tiffany's question of, do I think Sales Navigator is a must? yeah, I do think that Sales Navigator to a certain degree can be a must, but just like I said, I mean, you need to have one of them. That's what I would say is you need to have either Sales Nav or some way to target other than just the standard LinkedIn profile, which I imagine most people do. Um, going back up. Okay, so Joe, when you say personalized videos, are you saying specific to the persona or specific to the person? Yep. So good question, Joe. So specific to the person, and then I may even say take that a layer deeper and into the client, right? So let me use my Inc. 5000 as an example. Like, hey, Joe, the reason I'm reaching out is I saw that your company was just featured in the Inc. 5000 publication. I saw you guys were number 4279. Congrats. I know that takes a lot of work to be able to hit that level, and I also know that with success like that comes growth, and usually with that growth you might need talent. My company XYZ does ABC, and then at that point, that's where we have to get clear on an offer, right? Of what we're actually asking for. So yeah, you can do a very personalized video to that persona. Okay. Or you can do a generic video. A lot of the generic videos that we create that are relevant work on the recruiting side. Hey, John, I'm connecting with you on LinkedIn. Hey, after reviewing your profile, and let me preface this, this isn't done through bullshit. When my clients do this, they actually review the profile, they qualify the candidate, so that when they make this statement, it is actually true and real. All right, now that I've said that, so hey, I've reaching out, I'm looking at your profile. Your skills match up at a very high level with a lot of the talent that I normally place. My name is Donnie Gupton. I work in XYZ type of space for the last 18 years. And, I've got a role on my desk right now from a company that's got, benefit one, benefit two, benefit three. Hey, I'm not sure where you're at in your career right now, but I would love to just take some time to explore more about what you have going on. And if it makes sense, we can discuss this opportunity. If you're interested in that, just respond to this video or wait till the video completes and you'll see a link that pops up. And so we'll send generic relevant videos or messages like that via video. If you're doing it right, your video can actually have a link to your calendar page, and then you have clients and candidates booking. So to give you an example of how this worked for one of my clients who's in the scientific instrument space, he had a sales search, did exactly what I just said. He had 20 targeted candidates, so he did the research of the qualified candidates up front, and then built a system behind it, set it up on a Thursday. Monday morning, he woke up and he had 8 qualified candidates on his calendar. Okay. So that's how that can potentially work for you. And you guys know a hell of a lot more about recruiting than I do specifically. So I use Loom, Kelly. Good to see your name up there. And yeah, Loom is good. That's the one I use. The metrics, yeah, like we have metrics. The cool thing about Loom is you can see how long the video is viewed, who's viewing it, and then when we combine that with our tools with that we're using for automation, what we can definitely get is the view of the video, and then we can get the replies, the reply rates from people that are reaching out. I think reply rates in these types of campaigns are very kind of subjective, right? I mean, if I have a campaign rolling and everybody's replying, but they're telling me to go to hell, I mean, what difference does my reply rate make, right? So it's it'll keep metrics in terms of the views and opens and things like that. And then, yeah, we'll combine that with a tool. We at least have some evidence of what people are responding to and engaging with and things like that. Going back to Matt, do profile pictures and banners matter? Your profile picture definitely does, right? Like first impression, like anything else. I think your banner, I don't think in my experience, anybody's ever referenced my banner or anybody's told me that they've taken action for my banner. With that being said, it's digital real estate. So yeah, let's maximize it, right? So if you look at my profile again, you'll see that I have like a headline talking to my audience, and then I actually using my banner space to drive traffic to a resource I have for my audience. So everything's congruent, right? But to be clear, it's not like I've got thousands of people downloading my inbound lead training, right? Because they're, oh man, what a great banner. Let me download the training. So yeah, I think you should use it to maximize the way you're going to communicate with your market, get yourself more attractive to the ideal hiring persona. All right, let's talk about content. So I've created a piece of content or two in my life. And let me kind of just share my journey with you on content. So you can just know where I came from. My first start actually was in my dad's floor covering business. And back in 2007, right before the economic crash, we had just signed a fat contract with the Yellow Pages. Does anybody even open the Yellow Pages now? It's so fun telling the story. So 2007, we signed up for the Yellow Pages. I think we had like a $3,500 a month contract we were paying. So all of our, budget for us as a small business was tied up. And so I started listening to our boy Gary Vaynerchuk before Gary V was Gary V. He was Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was doing Wine Library TV. If you haven't seen Gary Vaynerchuk's Wine Library TV, that's where you got to start. It's awesome. So I started Gary Vaynerchuk Wine Library TV, and then I started my own YouTube channel called Flooring My Life TV. Now, if you wanted a good laugh, you can still go out there. It's still up and active. And if you are buying flooring, go to that site. It is the most up to date. Now, I haven't updated that in about 12, 15 years now. But point is, that's where I got my start, was on YouTube content, modeling my stuff after Gary Vaynerchuk. And a lot has changed over the years. Okay. Back then, everything was like highly produced, right? I used to have a green screen. All my videos were kind of like commercials. And now everything's changed. Okay. So you want to make sure with your content strategy that you have an authentic approach. That's the number one thing. It's not on the card here, but I want you guys to be thinking about how you can authentically show up in the marketplace. It's taken me a while to find my authentic voice. If you go back into that stuff in 2007, I was just fearfully willing, if you will, meaning that I didn't really believe in a whole lot in myself at that point in time. I knew plenty about flooring and the floor covering industry, so I was confident in what I was delivering, but I hadn't really found myself as a person at all in any way, shape, or form. But one of the strengths I have in my life is I'm just willing to do the work. And so that was one of those cases. That profile took my dad's business from under $1 million to over $6 million. Okay. So just by us dominating LinkedIn, learning how to build these skills, learning how to do keywords, we were able to dominate our local market. Okay. And do this stuff. But what I want you to take away from my story is the authentic piece. Okay. Probably going to double that if I was actually more real, more me, more authentic. And then the other thing I want to say, though, is the only way you get to be authentic and find that voice and show up is just by taking the action. So I wouldn't be able to be at this point where I can talk the way that I talk now in a more comfortable, authentic way if I hadn't start taking those reps. Okay. So I'm going to create content. Now, what content is not? It's not a self-promotional thing. Okay. And I know I've actually seen things around like, I don't want to build a personal brand because a personal brand is selfish. I don't want that attention towards me. Yeah. If you're thinking of it that way, you're thinking of it wrong. Okay. Your content should be a value add for your clients. And if you really truly do believe in what you have to offer, you're doing your market and the world a disservice by being quiet. Okay. You're doing the market and the world a disservice by being quiet and hiding. And so your personal brand has nothing to do with you. My personal brand for me is nothing that I build for myself, for my ego. My personal brand I build so I can reach more people and impact more people's lives. And so that's why you would want to do something like this, and quality content is what drives that. Okay. So we look at 3 pillars when we're creating content. Okay. We look at the first pillar of being leadership. And so going back to the ideal hiring persona, in order to establish myself as the leader in the market, I need to clearly convey to my market their pains, their problems, their frustrations, help them solve problems with content, right? So that you can position yourself as being the leader in the marketplace. One thing, we've already talked about this a couple of times, the one thing that really drives home you being a leader in your market more than anything is your track record of success. Okay. So guys, I'm going to come on here. I'm going to tell you very confidently that I feel like I'm one of the top marketing coaches in the recruiting space. Okay. I will not shy away from that. I know that about myself. Now, you guys will hear that from me all day long, and you're always going to take it with a grain of salt because, of course, I'd say that way. Go take a look at donniegupton.com/testimonials. Go look at my recommendations, and you'll have all the proof you need for me to be able to make that statement. And so one of the things that we focus on is those that don't just live on my profile and on my website somewhere in cyberspace. I use those in my stories and in my content all the time on LinkedIn. So if you look at my post from Monday, I told a story about one of my clients most recently that just went through my program. And in one campaign, he connected with a client that came through the 8th message on his automated sequence. And that client, he first signed up with one role and is now expanded into 5 positions and over 180K fees. Okay. These are retained. So that's me sharing how we win. I'm driving my leadership by doing that. So what are the recent wins that you've had in your marketplace that you can showcase? Hey, we just helped, one manufacturing fill 3 engineering roles in 30 days. Here's what we did. Tell the story. So I'm just listening to the story. You're adding value and educating me with it. And then I'm also realizing that, oh, you guys are good at what you do. Okay, then yeah, I'm going to just take the straight up testimonial and tell that story too, right? So I can talk about my success, I can have testimonials of success, but that's how I establish myself as a leader in the marketplace. Hey, why should I listen to you? Well, because my stuff works, right? And so we want to be able to drive that narrative, and I want my people to drive that narrative. Okay. The next thing that you want to do is service content. Okay. This is you adding a lot of goodwill into the marketplace. Okay. Nobody does this better for the recruiting industry than Benjamin Minna. The guy adds more goodwill into the marketing place than anybody else out there with his podcast, showcasing the guests on his podcast, the content he's creating, is always paying it forward, always helping people. Okay. And so that's where he's delivering a ton of what I call value-based solution content, that is really just helping people. He's serving his market, adding a bunch of goodwill. So what are the tips? What are the tricks? What are the how-tos? What are the myths that you can bust? What can you do to help a client or candidate make their day better and improve it? In a way, understanding that information's everywhere. So I might as well be the one that delivers it because it's everywhere. Nobody has any magic secrets, any magic bullets anymore, guys. It's everywhere. I can go to ChatGPT and find out whatever you want to know. So we are living in that world now, right? So what can you do to add value to your marketplace? And I'm going to come back again. If you've noticed, I'm not talking about promoting your business. We're talking about serving other people, and it all comes back to you this way. So there's nothing about the marketing strategy on a deep level that's going to go, oh yeah, well, I need the best sales message and tell you why you need to work with ABC recruiting company. Like, nobody cares anymore. So if you come out and you can clearly show that you understand your market and you're speaking specifically to people in that industry, go look at my posts. 9 out of 10 of my posts are calling out recruiters, recruiting firm owners, people. I'm speaking to my audience. So what does that do? It shrinks my reach. My impressions are not godly great, but they're good because I'm talking right to my right audience. And this is where you have to kind of set your ego aside and be careful who you follow in this industry, because there's some people that are so about, oh, well, you got to have followers and you have to, because I have minimal followers, minimal impressions, and I win consistently because my content speaks to my specific audience, showcases that I understand their pains, problems, and frustrations, and makes very clear that I have the solution for them. Simple as that. Okay. That comes from leadership content, service content. And the last one is what I call the connection piece, the connection content. So who are you? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? What are your beliefs? Go into the chat right now. Who can tell me if Benjamin Minna has a baby? Everybody can that's following him, right? That's content that is making us more connected to Benjamin. We're going to see how he is as a father. We can relate to him. It's really relatable for us that are fathers. I can look at one of his posts talking about his son, and it can bring me back to what I was doing. I'm relating. I'm connecting with him because he's a human being and I will tell you this is just my belief. It's more important now than ever to be doing this on LinkedIn. Why? Because there's ChatGPT bullshit going up everywhere. Let me be clear again. You should leverage and use ChatGPT, but most people don't know how to do it properly. And so you get a bunch of stiff robots out there, and some people that use their entire strategy around AI. There's no personalization. There's no connection. And there's nothing that's authentic about the way that they show up in the marketplace. And so that's where another massive opportunity lies, is to create that authentic content. Okay. So this is where we generate the inbound lead. Now, if we tie this whole thing together, okay, I have a very specific hiring persona. I'm going to grow my LinkedIn network every single day with this hiring persona. I'm going to message these people every single day on LinkedIn so that I can understand what they want to hear, how they want to hear it. And I'm going to become the most interested person in my hiring persona. And so I'm going to start to generate leads and conversations for my outreach. I'm going to start to build my audience and start to engage with people on LinkedIn so that when I start to go into my content habit, Now, when I'm doing my engagement and I'm building my audience, I'm still building it with my ideal hiring persona. Nothing's changed. Then I come back and now I'm going to create content again for my very ideal hiring persona. It's not hard. Okay. It's just a matter of cutting out the noise. A lot of what people are saying, stop worrying about like getting validation from your recruiting peers on here when you're creating content. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making on LinkedIn is they go talk to other recruiters. And I'm like, if you want, if that's what you're trying to get out of your profile, but if you have a bigger opportunity to talk to a market, unless you're trying to be a Benjamin Mena, where you're trying to be a leader and a thought voice for our industry, you don't have an interest really in getting validation from your peers. You have a lot of interest in getting validation from clients and candidates in your space. That's how you're going to make a lot of money from this. Okay. So it's not to say that you can't do both, but I would be very much more leaning towards how can I make an impact in my market, unless I, again, have a very clear initiative like Benjamin, where he's trying to do something big for our industry. Right. So that's the content and that's the foundation of the inbound leads. Okay. Now to take this to the next place, to truly generate that inbound lead, that's the lead magnet. So the lead magnet basically is used for our exchange. Okay. And the exchange is information for data. I'm going to give you this ebook, this resource. In exchange, you're going to give me your email and phone number so I can market to you. Okay. Every space online outside of your website and your own email is rented digital space. So I love LinkedIn, on it every day. Big part of my strategy. Should be yours too. But the bottom line is I'm renting that space from LinkedIn. So if LinkedIn goes away tomorrow, I got nothing. What do I have? Emails. And so that's where the inbound lead kind of comes in with his lead magnets. So what works right now with these lead magnets is, first and foremost, one of the always killers is salary guides. Your clients want to know salary information. Your candidates want to know salary information. It's a great opportunity for you to create a resource very specific to your audience. Now that immediately puts you into a position of authority because you're the person that wrote the book. You're the person that ran the webinar. And now I'm in a place of authority. And then that's where that resource really pays off for me. Now, when they give me that information, now when I do follow-up, it's warm. I'm not just some random person. Like I can do follow-up. I can do it even more consistently and more frequently now because, hey, they signed, this is permission based. They gave me permission to do that. Okay. So salary guides, solving micro problems. Maybe you've got a really unique way that you have for writing job descriptions. Maybe that's a unique problem that you solve. Maybe you've got a whole process that they need to know about. Okay. But you want to really create different resources. And then, this is the same thing. This is why I want to understand my hiring persona, is so that I can understand at a very deep level. Well, what would be something that I could give to somebody that would solve their challenge? What could I do to help them with that? Okay. So salary guide, a couple questions came in around that. So there's a lot of variable around this one, Laura. So a couple of people I've worked with, they have enough volume internally. Like I've worked with a pretty large accounting and finance firm that's just focused in the Bay Area in the past, and they have enough volume internally where they can just take the positions that they filled and they were able to collect the data that way. So I think that there's going to be few and far between that have that kind of volume. So there's actually data companies out there. I don't have any off the top of my mind, off the top of my head that I could refer you to, but there's data companies out there that would actually have the salary data. I've actually helped clients go to their LinkedIn network, build out a survey themselves using Google Survey or SurveyMonkey, going and collecting the actual salary data themselves and then putting that together that way. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do it. And I think it's really dependent upon where you're at and what kind of resources you have, kind of at your fingertips, to be able to build something like that. And it's not an easy build. And that's why you want to do it, is because most people won't. Most people won't do half the things I just talked about on here. And that's why you want to do it. It works and most people shy away from it. So, but one last thing, I don't know, Saul, I don't know if I have a specific answer to that one, how many data points. I think it's just kind of whatever's relevant to the market. So obviously, like I wouldn't want to be creating accounting, a CFO, salary position for a Fortune 100 company based out of California, and then deliver that information as being valid to, a medium-sized company in Washington, D.C. Right. So there has to be some sort of relevancy again with the data that I'm and that's going to determine how many data points, right? Usually what my clients are doing are kind of giving a fluctuation range, like, hey, here's high, here's low. they're telling where the region is and where they're getting this information from. So good stuff. But the last thing I'll say about the lead magnet is ultimately if you can find a very specific problem that you know your audience is facing, and if you could give them something away that solves that for them, then now I can build that relationship. And that's the reason for the lead magnet. So I have the follow-up, I have a warmer relationship. Again, that's that permission. Okay. So last part of this whole bad boy is having an effective follow-up strategy. I told Benjamin before this, I don't know if I'd be able to go for an hour and a half, but here we are, 55 minutes in. Hope you guys are finding value out of this, and I'll keep on driving. So another thing that I think is a challenge is a lot of folks are just focused on what's in the top of the funnel. Meaning that, and I think this is just kind of because of how everything's trained in this industry, with a lot of it being like cold calling, outbound type of stuff. Then what I'm focused on is like, well, what do you have for me today? 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 And that's a lot of how, that works. But a lot of, for me, for my clients is like, most of my clients, for example, and the way I get clients a little bit different than the way you guys would, but most of my clients actually follow me for a while before they actually become a client, because I have good follow-up systems in place. Okay. So, just kind of reframe that, like, your first interaction is not the first interaction is just the start. Even if they say no to my first, ask, so to speak, have a good follow-up system in place. And I think a lot of this, just from a mindset standpoint, is stop taking things so damn personally. Just because somebody didn't respond to your message doesn't mean your message sucks. Somebody didn't respond to your message doesn't mean they're not interested. So I just have a system in place. This is what I do. I run the ball, for example. I always use football in analogies. So what you want to do is like, what is your system for follow-up? And then I just follow this process every single time that somebody comes in my world. I have a very specific follow-up process. Okay. So for example, if I'm interacting with somebody on LinkedIn and they're like, hey, Saul, don't have anything right now, reach back out in Q2. Well, that's where I have a massive opportunity to do some good nurturing in the meantime. So, hey, step one, go to my CRM. I'm going to open up Crelate. Going to Crelate, put that little notification on there for the follow-up step. Boom. Now I have my manual touch point, for right before Q2 ends, that I'm going to follow up with Sally over there at ABC Company. All right. Now, what else can I do between now and then? Well, that's where I want to have a good email opportunity, newsletter type stuff. Okay. Now, I don't do newsletters. I don't like newsletters, but that's something that I know you guys can all understand. Bottom line is, can you have a voice where you're going to generate and share value in your emails? Okay. Again, most of this industry is all focused on transaction, all focused on the top of the funnel. And most of the time I'm doing outreach, it's if I have a desire or a need, right? And if I start to become the company or the person that shows up and is adding value left and right while everybody else is begging and asking, especially in an economy like now, I'm going to make way more relationships. Okay. If I'm just focused on serving rather than selling all the time. Okay. And so that's where I have that list. That's why the lead magnet makes so much sense. That's why having these prospects on a targeted list makes so much sense, is that you are going to create follow-up sequences. Now they can be automated or they can be manual touch points. You can set a cadence for yourself. Like, hey, I hit this list once a month, twice a month. I'm going to tell you to be more aggressive than not. Let's just use one hypothetical here. Let's say I hit an email. My goal, and I tell you very clearly, this would not be what I recommend, but I have a lot of people talking to me like, oh, I don't want to be too aggressive to my market, so I don't want to follow up that much. So I'm gonna send out a newsletter every quarter. Oh, you are? Okay, cool. When 50% of your stuff is getting sent to spam, so you're going to send out a newsletter every quarter. That basically means that your clients and that list is going to hear from you once a year, because the first one's not going to get delivered, and then maybe they see the second one. And I'm not building any reputation. I'm not keeping myself top of mind with that. I'm not cutting through any noise. I'm just checking the box check, did my newsletter. 2 times a month is the minimum. Okay. Add value, create content. We already talked about the content you're going to create. You just take that content and start delivering it here. And that's how you start to build these types of things out. So this is where we have the lead nurturing. Yep, you can do business. Okay, I'm just getting caught up in some of these questions. Gavin, I'm sure you're out, but appreciate that, man. If you're making an automated outreach sequence, maybe it includes manual tasks. Where do you feel the balance is with staying top of mind, but not being pushy in terms of cadence? Yeah, good question, Tony. So I think that there's a lot of case by case things here, right? Based off of industry. So, hey, I email my list multiple times a week. I don't think that's probably best practice for you guys. I think that's where you're going to burn your market out, right? And so I think, again, I think the baseline that I would use is at least twice a month because I'm going to assume one of those they're not going to see. Now you could make a case that, maybe I do it every month, or maybe I would do it every week, and maybe you have a Friday, the Thursday thought from Tony, right? And then that's just something that you brand yourself around. And then every Thursday you come through, you throw your thought, and that's what people get to know you for. So you can get creative and have fun with that type of stuff. And then, you know, I don't look at things as being, I don't think when you approach it that way, you become pushy, right? Like I have people that will unsubscribe from my list, of course. And I like unsubscribers, if I'm being honest. That just gets me closer to the yes. So I'm not worried about that, and I'm consistent with my content. And so if my content's resonating with people, doesn't mean they're going to respond. I mean, I send way more messages than I get responses, of course, right? But I want to control what I can control. So I don't even care if you open my email. If you just see Donnie Gupton live with Benjamin Mena today, then boom, I've got brand awareness. I'm top of your mind, right? And then you see Donnie Gupton, here's, one client, 5 new opportunities, 180K fees, just in the subject line of your email. I'm doing my job, right? So just think about, part of this is just staying top of mind by showing up and them reading the subject line of your email. That could be it. So I think the balance part is going to be really, 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 really personal. But I'll tell you this, and maybe this isn't the best way to go about it, but if you're on my list, I'm not really thinking about if I'm going to be pushy or not, because I know I'm adding value. Okay. So I'm not going to go like, oh, shoot, I had a call with Kelly. Kelly's going to be on my follow-up, next month. She's going to be on my follow-up call. I'm not going to email her anymore. No, I'm just going to keep that whole thing going. I'm going to keep Kelly on there. I'm going to pretend that Kelly is going to forget about that call. So I'm going to nurture her and make sure that I stay top of mind. And then I'm still going to pick up the phone and call her in the meantime. I can tell you for myself personally, I've never had somebody, when I've done my manual follow-up after, be like, dude, you email way too much, man. Like you're way too much out there. And I email a lot. So, I think that's just kind of something for you to, think through for your guys' self. There is like, what frequency do you want to be, understanding that a lot of this stuff isn't going to get delivered. And then understanding that, like, hey, I have a follow-up that's kind of more generic, that's going to go to a bigger list, and then have very individual follow-ups from there, and to work those things together. But again, that key insight, the last thing is like the fortunes and the follow-up. And if you've got a good system right now of starting conversations, then this might be the next thing that you need to implement for your success. Okay. So I'm coming up to the end here. I did have a special offer I wanted to kind of present to you guys here on the call. I've been doing, for the last year and a half now, I've been doing LinkedIn tune-ups for recruiters. I've done over 100 of these. And so what we do is I'm going to give you a form to fill out. Okay. In that form, you're going to answer some questions that I ask you about your profile. And then I'm going to shoot and record a 15-minute personalized video reviewing your profile, reviewing your messaging, and reviewing your content strategy, and then give you the exact tips that I would give my own clients, so you can go make some tweaks to your profile. Okay. So this is something, this little, LinkedIn tune-up, as I call it, can massively kind of change the trajectory of your business, just because we can make one tweak. If we made one tweak to your message that gets more responses in our world, that could be $20,000 to $100,000, could even be more depending on your volumes, right? So before I just want to question is, would anybody be interested in this tune-up, right? So we can stand out from our competitors, boost response rates, and attract ideal clients and candidates. Awesome. All right, cool. So normally this thing's 97. Okay. What I'm doing for this group today will be $55. Okay. At the end of the session today, in the Finish Your Strong portal that Benjamin's created, you will see that offer. But I'm just going to suggest that you guys reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you saw me here on this live event. We'll do that tune up for $55. Typically, I'm doing those and turning those around in a week. But if everybody that says yes goes through, you guys are gonna have to give me some time. But that tune-up incredibly valuable. Again, one tweak away. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing the screen here. I know we've got another 15 minutes formally. Anybody have any thoughts, questions, go to hells, anything like that?
Marshall, like, we'll answer like two questions real quick, and then we got to, or one question, then we got to jump off to get ready for the next one.
Yep.
Get real quick.
I don't think there's anything else that I've seen on here. But yeah.
Ellie says, "Don't go to hell."
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your guys' time today. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully there's some value. Again, if you want to take the next step with the LinkedIn tune-up, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. There will be that offer that I will have in my portal here, hopefully in the next hour or two, Benjamin. So
Yeah, it'll be updated. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much. Donnie, you are absolutely amazing. For those that have upgraded to VIP for the replays, I should have this up easily within the hour if you want to check it out again. But man, talk about an awesome week, Donnie. You have really helped cap this week off. And man, I'm so glad that we met online, and it's been awesome to see where this journey is going. So
yeah,
if you can't make it to the next session or any of the rest of them today, definitely check out the replays, go VIP, get those up. But up next is going to be Pete. Pete was homeless for over a decade, alcohol, drugs, living on the streets. And he's going to talk to you about, and recruiting absolutely changed his life. So he's going to talk about the overcoming and talking about some obstacles that he had to overcome in his life to also have success in recruiting. So I will see you guys in about 12 minutes.
thank you guys. We'll see you soon.